Ever since the release of 1.9, multiplayer Minecraft has been suffering. The release of 1.9 introduced tons of problems for competitive PvP, like inconsistent knockback, blocks not registering properly, and crystal explosions being entirely affected by latency. Not to mention, the fact that a large portion of the PvP community still plays 1.8 combat means that the multiplayer community will always be divided across versions. Regardless of whether you like 1.8 or 1.20 combat more, you can't deny that multiplayer Minecraft has some serious problems that negatively affect both communities. But what if that wasn't the case? What if every multiplayer related problem was completely fixed, and not only that, 1.8 and 1.20 players could finally play on the same version together? Introducing Modern MMC, the Minecraft server that will completely revolutionize the multiplayer landscape forever. Let's first talk about the most exciting feature of Modern MMC, which is that they were able to completely recreate 1.8 combat on 1.21. And when I say that, I'm not simply talking about disabling the attack cooldown. They made PvP on 1.21 1-to-1 with their 1.8 server. I mean, just look at some of these fights. It's virtually identical to 1.8. Since there's a lot that's going on behind the scenes, let me give you a quick rundown of how this all works. First of all, a recent change in 1.21.2 made it so you can add the consumable attribute to items, letting you effectively eat any item in the game. By adding the consumable attribute to a sword and giving it a nearly infinite consume duration, this lets you get sword blocking back on 1.21. The damage reduction from blocking is done server-sided, and with that, sword blocking now works exactly the same as how it does on 1.8. Everything else, like knockback, saturation, projectile physics, hit registration, and hitbox sizes are 1-to-1 with MMC's 1.8 server. Even rod tricking works, which is a strat that 1.8 players use to deal extra damage with their rod. The only thing that's different are the animations, but thanks to a mod called ANIMATIUM, you can have all the 1.8 animations back on 1.21. This mod works with any fabric-based launcher, like Lunar and Feather Client for example, and it can be toggled on and off with just a command, so there should be no problems dropping it into your existing 1.21 mods folder. Just to reiterate, all the changes within ANIMATIUM are visual changes and don't affect gameplay at all, so you don't need to use the mod to play Legacy PvP on 1.21. Thanks to all these changes, Legacy PvP on MMC's 1.21 server feels indistinguishable from their 1.8 server, and it's actually magical. All of the 1.8 related changes can be toggled on and off within MMC's custom kit settings, and you can even merge aspects of 1.8 and 1.20 combat together. For example, you can have 1.20 UHC with 1.8 rods, or you can have 1.8 fireball fight using a 1.9 mace. Right now, you can only make 1.8 game modes within MMC's custom kit editor, but in the future, they plan to have both 1.8 and 1.20 game modes that anyone can queue into. So regardless of what your preferred combat version is, both communities can coexist with each other on Modern MMC. It's actually mind-blowing that MMC was able to pull all of this off, and I genuinely think the server will finally make 1.8 obsolete. But that's not all. Modern MMC has also fixed some of the biggest problems with 1.20 combat as well. But before I tell you about that, let me tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Lunar Client. This video was brought to you by Lunar Client, the #1 free client for Minecraft to enhance your gaming experience. Lunar Client has over 70 mods and hundreds of customizable settings to help you tailor your Minecraft experience exactly to your needs. For example, one of my favorite features is the ability to host your own multiplayer world for free directly within Lunar Client without having to pay for your own Minecraft server. It's so easy too, and only takes like 2 clicks to get your own SMP going. Lunar Client's performance optimizations ensure that you have the most FPS possible, which is crucial for me when I'm playing on larger multiplayer servers. Lunar Client also has hundreds of in-game cosmetics to spice up your in-game appearance, including exclusive content creator cosmetics like my Year of the Dragon cloaks. If any of this sounds appealing to you, then make sure to try out Lunar Client for free at the link in the description. When it comes to block placements, something that you might have noticed on other servers is that when you place blocks from your offhand, sometimes they disappear. You can see this clearly when I try to drag click with blocks in my offhand. Most of them end up disappearing after I punch them. This makes bridging with blocks in your offhand extremely infuriating in game modes like Sky Battle, since your blocks will randomly disappear below your feet and send you falling to your death. On Modern MMC though, this issue is completely fixed. It's basically impossible to make my blocks disappear even when I'm drag clicking as fast as I can. Because of this, you can can even do things like Telly bridging with blocks in your offhand without any ghost blocks at all. Another thing you may have noticed on 1.20 servers is that when you place a block with your offhand and try to attack immediately after, you'll get a weak hit instead of a fully charged attack. This isn't shown by your attack indicator either, which is extremely unintuitive for any game mode involving block PvP on 1.20. As it turns out, it's actually the swing animation that resets your attack cooldown instead of you left clicking with your weapon. Since placing a block with your offhand causes your offhand to swing, that is what resets your attack cooldown. This doesn't just happen with your blocks either. Anything that causes a swing animation, like pressing a button, opening a door, or throwing a snowball, will cause your attack cooldown to reset without visually showing it with your attack indicator. I have no idea why this is a thing, but it makes block PvP feel so much more clunky on 1.20 servers compared to 1.8 servers. On Modern MMC, however, your attack cooldown is only reset when you actually use your weapon. Because of this, block trapping works seamlessly on Modern MMC, and you no longer have to wait for your attack cooldown to reset after placing blocks from your offhand. Next up on the list are crystals. If you've ever tried crystal PvP before, you'd know that you can crystal much faster on low ping compared to high ping. The reason this happens is simply because of how entity interactions work in Minecraft. When you place an entity like a crystal on a piece of obsidian, you have to wait for the server to register your input before you can explode the crystal. The same goes for exploding crystals. You have to wait for the server to register the explosion before you can place another crystal on the same block. Because of this, the higher your latency is, the slower your crystal speeds are. This is terrible for high ping players and essentially cuts their DPS in half in any game mode that utilizes crystal explosions, like vanilla SMPs for example. Thanks Mojang! But thankfully, MMC has found a way to fix this issue. On Modern MMC, you can crystal as fast as you want, regardless of how high your latency is. This is all done server side too, so you don't need to download any mods to be able to crystal as fast as a low ping player. The last, and probably one of the biggest optimizations on Modern MMC, is fixing Minecraft's knockback. Modern MMC uses a plugin called Club Sync, which is basically MMC's version of Knockback Sync. If you don't know what Knockback Sync is, I made an entire video explaining it in detail, but let me give you a quick recap. If you're playing on a vanilla server, your knockback will actually change depending on what your ping is. If you have higher ping, you'll actually take less knockback. Because of this, it's pretty much impossible to hold high ping players in a combo on 1.20, which is a huge problem for pretty much every melee-based game mode. I mean, imagine if having higher ping made you move less in games like Super Smash Bros. Club Sync is a plugin that adds rollback netcode to Minecraft's knockback. This makes it so that every player takes the same knockback that a low ping player would take on a vanilla server, without changing Minecraft's knockback mechanics at all. Because of this, on Modern MMC, every player can be comboed regardless of what their ping is, in contrast to vanilla servers where only low ping players can be comboed. Since my video on Knockback Sync, the plugin has absolutely blown up and is now being used by some of the biggest competitive 1.20 PvP servers. It's even been approved by the official Minecraft tier list. MMC's version of it does feel the most consistent, however, but that shouldn't really be a surprise since they were the ones to invent this plugin in the first place. And let me tell you, it feels fantastic to PvP with. It literally feels the exact same as vanilla knockback, but now I can actually hold high ping players in combos. Easily one of the biggest improvements to 1.20 PvP, and I highly recommend trying it. As someone that's been involved in the multiplayer community for over a decade, I can easily say that Modern MMC is the most innovative PvP server that's ever been released. Not only have they managed to finally unite the 1.8 and 1.20 player bases, but they've also fixed every major problem that multiplayer servers on the latest version have been experiencing for years. Not only that, but Modern MMC has also shown interest in having the best server performance and anti-cheat out of any 1.20 server, which is awesome to see since this is an area that most 1.20 servers struggle in. Keep in mind though that while Modern MMC is now public for anyone to play, it is still in beta, so try to keep your expectations in check for now until the server fully releases. But with that being said, I genuinely believe that the release of Modern MMC will start a new era for competitive Minecraft combat, and I really hope that more servers will follow their footsteps going forward to change the game for the better.